All right. Welcome to the Federation of the Unwanted. This is an semi casual annual discussion on Canadian politics with it's a little round table, and we have usually some podcasters or commentators to lead us along. And today I have with me Andre Melange, Pamela Ascari, and Graham Dunlop from Gramerica Podcast. So we were going to toss around, I guess, the Canadian politics a little bit. It's January 2026, and we're off to an interesting start. Payman is actually hanging out in Florida these days. What's going on? Have you left Canada? and can I come down there with you maybe someday soon? And also,
he's a refugee.
What are they saying about what just happened in Venezuela? This is the big question. We have to talk about Venezuela, I guess. Yeah, over to you, my friend. What's going on down there?
So I'm good, David. Graham, it's nice to meet you. Andre, good to see you again.
Nice to meet you.
It's I'm only here temporarily. Canadians can be here 6 months of the year, and I don't want to go back. And I just came here for a road trip, and I'm like, Canada sucks. I can't go back there. Unfortunately, I'm in a very remote area. I see some Mexican laborers here that don't speak English. There's one farmer. We talk about how immigration sucks, but I haven't talked to anybody about Venezuela. But this Venezuelan thing that's happened, I've been thinking, like Trump has crossed the Rubicon. Like there's no going back now. This is a post rule of law world. It's a post rule of law world, and it's going to be increasingly more difficult to go around and say like Europe can't treat Russia like this because it violates the rule of law. When what Trump did is like he went in and he arrested an elected head of state, and the bitch of it is that head of state is so hated that his people probably cheered it on. Kind of like Canada. Like if he came in and he arrested Mark Carney, I'd cheer it on. We are beyond the like I said, we've crossed the Rubicon. We're beyond the point of no return.
What do you think, Graham? What's going on? Well, first of all, maybe I could ask you what exactly happened, because I'm still not even sure. It's very fresh. 24 hours ago, this happened, right?
Well, I think what people aren't really talking about a lot is, and I agree with Payman completely, except that Canada wouldn't celebrate. They'd freak out because there's only 20% of us that are kind of in that category. I think we're in trouble here in Canada. But I think what people aren't talking about is what should he do? What should somebody in his position do if somebody like Maduro emptied out his jails into the US, like literally like sent their criminals to the US? What if they affected the election results? What if they were selling sanctioned oil? What if they stole the Americans' oil? Like these things that they've been accused of. Like I don't know if those are true or not, but they might be. And what should he do? Like what do you do if you're in a war? You're in a war already. Like we are in a war already. I mean, you could say the US is getting invaded. You could say we are getting invaded. Who knows what's happening in the UK and Europe? We're all kind of collapsing at different speeds. So I think we're in a war, and I'm trying to be real careful about believing anything right now, trying to keep an open mind to what's going on, and just think about these other things that are happening that I think they know way more than we know. Like the Trump, they somehow kept it quiet. The media kept the lid on it. I think a lot of stuff is going to come out with Maduro now being in their hands. I'm not saying I even like what happened. It's just that there's questions.
There was a lot of soldiers on the ground. Apparently, it was a big, massive operation. I did listen to the Trump today at 11 a.m. Eastern. Trump talked about it for an hour, and Mark Rubio talked, and basically Trump said, all these guys standing behind me and over here, these are the guys running Venezuela now. And it was Mark Rubio and these other guys.
And what I like about that, I mean, it's so crazy that it's happening, but at least it's out in the open. He's basically saying what the CIA would never say out loud, right? They would always keep this stuff hush, but he's like just out there saying, okay, well, we're going to run it. And they had their general describe, or whoever he was, describe the exact operation. Oh, we did this and we did that. Because I mean, obviously that's not there's no classified sort of technological secrets in there, but he's like, we swooped in and we grabbed them. with no U.S. casualties. I mean, it was interesting the way they're marketing the whole thing as well. But as far as the rules-based order goes, I mean, they're showing just to to be basically in charge of the collapse of the West right now. Like that, what the rules-based order is kind of like an unelected elite running things out of the EU, it seems, and the UN, and they're not really doing us any favors right now. So I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, well, we're collapsing in the West anyways. It's under self-destruction. It seems like you can't think of it any other way. And why are they letting that happen? Like, why are they allowing it to happen? And now Trump comes in and it's like, well, I'd kind of rather, I hate to even say it, but I'd not kind of rather be like a part of the part of the US as a North American country with more autonomy than we have now in Canada. Like I kind of feel more comfortable under that than under the climate change lies of net zero and all the stuff they've been shoving down our throat for the last 5 to 10 years. I don't know what you guys, love to know what you guys think.
Okay, well, over to Andre, and I want to tell you, the last time we'd had this little round table thing, I was like, no, it's stupid to become the 51st state because I thought it was a psyop of some kind, and I still think it kind of is. But I'm warming up to the idea because it's almost like, what's the alternative? What's the alternative if we don't become an American state, Andre? What do you think?
I will start with, first of all, the title, the Federation of the Unwanted. So there's a lot of people who are unwanted in the equation. I will go through literature in a book of Albert Camus, Caligula. It is Caligula who's talking to a patrician, his senior advisor, and he's saying, "I want the moon." And Scipion, his advisor, says, "Come on, Emperor, you cannot have the moon, and it is not possible." So Caligula is saying, "I'm the emperor. If I cannot have the moon, who can?" So the absurdity of the discussion or the dialogue is quite obvious in the Camus book. Trump wants everything. Make America great again. The empire does not stop an imperialist movement. It was always like this. Whether you talk about the Ottoman Empire, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Russian Empire, the Lithuanian Empire, the Polish Empire, they all have this tendency of trying to expand their perspective. Then I can say, who's trying to expand? I think it was 1 month ago. It was supposed to be Tony Blair that would be the governor of Gaza. Then, suddenly he disappeared from the map. Jared Kushner was in Moscow negotiating with Vladimir Putin and General Witkoff, and then suddenly you hear that negotiation was stalled. And wow, arrived Venezuela. Trump is like a chicken without head. He's either manipulated by the CIA or all the advisor, and in my opinion, he's so narcissistic that he's always trying to look at its best in front of a camera. It's always like, oh, great man, great guy. His vocabulary is quite limited. And the fact that they target Venezuela, I think it's exactly what Payman referred to. The international order never really worked. It's the UN doesn't work. I said that yesterday on Cerberus. The Security Council does not work. Everybody is voting against each other, vetoing each other, or abstaining like China, and they all follow their own geopolitical interest. So I think it's too early to understand what happened in Venezuela. But the tendency on the long term is that the international illusion doesn't work anymore. Now take Russia. Russia will say, wait a second, if we do the same thing with Zelensky, we kidnap Zelensky and we bring him to Moscow, who will scream about a coup? You say, wait. We can refer back to the Kosovo. We can refer back to many precedents that were made by United States. But they will not stop. They will not stop. And I think they're attacking. I think it's a bitter victory for Trump because he's attacking Venezuela because he cannot pressure Russia into a peace agreement in Ukraine. So he's targeting a weaker opponent. Think about Iran. They failed. Israel and Iran, they failed. Now he has to attack somebody because this is the modus operandi of the United States. War.
Hey, regarding Iran, the United States launched 13 stealth bombers on that one when what was it? They hit the like 5 or 6 facilities where they were making uranium something nuclear power, right? Well,
but first of all, the target were known.
Yeah.
And what is funny is because you look at the international geopolitics. Iran, China, Russia, Venezuela now, but and United States. Forget about the EU. The EU it's like Chihuahua. They don't count. But when they started the war the operation between Israel and Iran, there was a military agreement between Russia and Iran, and it was on in paper since 2 years. And Iran were hesitating to sign the agreement. As soon as it was launched, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was in Moscow signing the agreement. And the deal was to have a mutual protection, like, for example, Article 5 of NATO. Russia made the same offer to Maduro. Maduro refused. And let's not forget something. Do you have, for example, Russia would bring weapons on Venezuela soil? It means that you're very close to the United States. It's like having all those NATO bases around Russia. So there's a higher goal that we don't see because diplomacy is not it's not public. Graham said something.
But it is though. So Andre, how do you reconcile that theory with, or what you're saying with the new security, statement that they came out and basically said they want, like, Trump wants the Western Hemisphere and they're going to leave sort of Europe to its own. They'll support Europe, but they have to take care of themselves, and Russia and China are going to do their thing in their hemisphere. Like, so how do you? It does seem like they are publicly saying this is what we want to do. And now Venezuela's in that geographical location. And also, like, what about, like, what do you do if a country like Venezuela sends all their hardened criminals, like, basically empties out their jails into the States? Like, how should he respond to that?
Well, there's one part I do agree with you, Graham. There's one part that is legitimate. But last week, Ukraine attacked the presidential residence of Putin, and they have proved that it was triggered by the CIA and the MI6. So you arrive at a point where, at a higher level, it's not. They have you have to. I think, in my opinion, you have 2 levels. You have the national level where Trump is trying to restore a certain level of authority in the States, and you have the international level. And I think the fact that he wanted to annex Venezuela or control Venezuela, it's for oil. Venezuela has the biggest oil reserve on the planet, 305 or 10 billion barrels of reserve. So it changed the geopolitical balance of power, and this is not new. I think it's too early to decide or to comment on it. It's very difficult.
Venezuela has the largest oil reserves and the 8th largest natural gas reserves in the world. They have both 30 million people population. I'm just looking at this. I don't know anything about this country. What the heck's going on there? Are they that weak? They just roll over? Okay. Well, they got a lot of oil. They should have had more guns. I don't know what to tell you. But I'm concerned about Canada and all of this, I guess, in some sense, because really it's like, okay, so he he was talking about Greenland last week. He said, we need Greenland for national security. Okay, fine. We need Canada. Well, he doesn't say, what does he say about Canada? He's still saying that stuff. That 51st state thing is still like very much in the air. I hear it on the radio and stuff. Get in the car, turn on the radio, and little advertisements that say local news, something in here in Canada where we're not a state. And it's like, what? So I'm hearing these weird things going on there also. So I guess the obvious question is, well, he's going to take this country, going to take that country, going to talk about taking this country, that country. What do you foresee or hope for Canada in all of this going on? You know, should it all be one gigantic, technate or whatever? You know, I don't know. Maybe that'd be a good thing. Because Canada, here's the problem. Canada, I'm sorry, is it not a socialist country like de facto right now? What do you guys think? Because the purpose for the podcast really is, I think we should become the 51st state. I've changed my tune. I don't know.
Only fools don't change their mind.
Yeah, I'm kind of goofing around too. I'm sort of an anarchist at heart. You know this. But in some sense, I do wonder, and the conversation still comes up in my house. Should we sell this fucking house and get the hell out of this country? And I don't like having that conversation, to be perfectly honest, because I like this house. But that's the kind of atmosphere in Canada. Am I paranoid? You know, or not? It's a fucking totalitarian country here, isn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I've changed my mind about revolution kind of thing. I mean, I think we want to tread super carefully on all this. I mean, any kind of revolution in Canada, we're so fragile in Canada. I mean, you know, I'm in Saskatchewan, weather, power, internet, water goes out, any of those things, and we're toast. So I don't know. I'm a little worried about how polarized we are in Canada. I don't think there's any really getting us together. So I don't know. I'm kind of worried, but I just don't want anything rash to happen. I'm kind of now wanting just like slow change, but with what Trump's doing, who knows, right?
Well, I think
Albert. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, Graham, you're right. You know, he's pushing the agenda, and I can refer to Mikhail Bulgakov, the White Guard, which is civil war in 1917, 1918 in Ukraine. You mentioned the revolution. The revolution is always bloody. It's always bloody. A civil war is always bloody. And the first thing we have to do is try to calm down the game and to be rational, because as soon as, like you said, you don't have water, energy, no electricity, no food, you will have riots. It will raise, and people will not be tolerant. And Canada is a big country, so I think it will be different, whether it is in Nova Scotia, BC, Saskatchewan, Alberta, Quebec, Ontario. It will be different because of either the mass immigration have created a false impression of unity. It doesn't work.
Well, I was checking out the news before this little podcast today, and I don't pay close attention to the mainstream news, but obviously, you know, I listen. Things are happening. I don't know. I just want to also just get more of your guys' sense of like, what are you thinking like about Canada? And do you think? Well, okay. Here's another thing. Alberta separation. Hello. There's like 1/3 of all of Alberta. Correct me if I'm wrong, Graham. Is it 1/3 of the people of Alberta want to separate that off into their own country or have independence or whatever it is?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I don't think it's. I mean, they need 177,000 votes, I think, or something like that. Now that it's kind of out there, but I don't know if they'll get it. I mean, I kind of have a sense that they won't get it, but there's enough to be worried, you know, enough to get really nasty pushback from the East. I mean, I'd love to know what Payman thinks about Alberta separation and Canada.
Yeah, Graham, you mentioned the security document that the Trump administration released, which it's the best document I've ever read, because you read it and it makes sense. It's not just, you know, some legalese document or an academic paper. And the things that are in there, they're phenomenal. Like they use the word the family unit, the importance of the family. They talk about obviously the Western Hemisphere and you know, whatever, the Monroe Doctrine, but they opposed climate change, for example. They talk about reindustrializing, for example. They call the European not by name, like these supranational institutions, they call them antiquated, if I'm not mistaken, and they hint that they want to make peace with Russia. They say, Russia's in its own little conflict, and then they identify China as the enemy. And what it appears to me is happening is that the U.S. understands that they can't be the global police anymore. They want to get out of the Middle East. Israel just keeps pulling them back in. They basically had a divorce with Europe. They're trying to consolidate in the North and South America. I think that's what Venezuela was about. I don't think they're going to invade. I don't imagine they want a 51st state through Venezuela, 52nd, depending which one of us gets 51st first. He wants access to their oil reserves. Now, it's not. I've been thinking about this. It's not that he's going to steal the oil and every American gets a couple of gallons of oil. What he wants is the U.S. is terminally bankrupt, like they're completely broke, and he wants to have something so that Exxon or what are all these oil companies, they can go to the Chase Bank and say, give us $1 billion loan. We're going to go in and we're going to drill the oil here. So he wants to revitalize the U.S. economy. Maybe that'll give him some breathing room. And the reason I say that is because the reason that Trump was elected was not to go start forever wars, not to go get oil. It was to end mass immigration, reduce spending, and no more forever wars. And he hasn't really. He's made great headway. Don't get me wrong. Like they stopped USAID. He's gotten control of the media, but we're not there yet. Like what he did to Doge or what he was forced to do, that really hurt him. And we're going into the midterms, and he needs some serious wins. I think this gives him some breathing room to do whatever he wants to do. Graham sort of hinted at this, getting rid of these globalists with their green agenda. That's what he wants to do, but I think he keeps getting pulled in. Like Andre mentioned, how the CIA tried to assassinate Putin. Like he's getting dragged back into that when I don't think he actually wants to.
Canada is so entrenched, and I know this because I'm in community college and I see this SDG stuff like on the walls and everything. And Nick Hudson's going to come on my podcast on January 17th, and he's going to specifically break down for me, because I'm not smart enough to understand just how entrenched and how deranged and how complicated this stuff actually is, really, when you try to understand what's going on in the world right now. And why Canada has latched itself to this thing, the United Nations, and how it's just infested all the universities and all the schools and everything. This colorful wheel of no poverty, nowhere in the world, no poverty at all, no hunger, all this, and gender equality, all that stuff. And it's like, the closer you look at that stuff, you're thinking, well, that's what they're doing. And it's just like, they're just going to grind human beings into nothing. And also, the United States is building 1,250-ish AI data centers right now. So when you think about all of the countries emerging into one, the Greater America project, if you want to look at it that way, take Greenland, take Venezuela, take whoever, and then build this super tech apparatus also. Interesting. I don't know. A little freaky if you think of it on those terms. The kind of dystopia that could be cooking in the background right now. I mean, look around. There's AI that's doing job interviews for people also right now. So I don't know. We're seeing some kind of some flip from the just deranged since 2020 to the present 2026 into the completely unfathomable, incomprehensible future of some weird kind, right? What's going on around here? They're like Carney and these people are just lying and saying bullshit. And is there still a carbon tax in Canada too? I mean, I'm asking you guys because, like, obviously I'm not clued in on the politics of the country or anything, but any other thoughts?
Well, you mentioned the carbon tax and the idea of climate change. The actual narrative has been like, DEI, transgenderism, climate change doesn't work anymore because more and more people are waking up because it hurts them locally. The fact that you pay more for your gas, the payment is in the States now. I'm sure they can compare the price of gas in the States, in Florida, with what we pay, he was paying in BC, or what we pay in Quebec. In Quebec, we are associated with California, so it's not the carbon tax. Even when Carney removed the carbon tax, or he suspended it, we still pay it in Quebec. So we pay, I think, 30 to 40 cents more than the rest of Canada. So of course, you go to fill up your tank, you immediately feel it. There was an evaluation of the stock of oil in Venezuela, $17 trillion. The stock, 305 billion barrel at about the price of $65 per barrel. It's about $17 trillion. It's not even half the debt, the national debt of United States. And I was checking what the level of the GDP, world GDP, which is about $250,000 billion, and not counting derivative product. Derivative product is a police insurance policy. That's what we can summarize it. The value actually of a derivative product for the entire planet for 1 year is $3,500 billion. It means that people, they don't trust each other. I have a contract with you. I will take a police insurance policy. That's what we call derivative. And all the economists, even the greatest economists, they say we don't know how it is structured. They just don't know. We are arriving at a point where the system will have to be reset. And where it will be, people now, I think, geopolitically speaking, they try to build alliance. We saw with Greenland, but the great American alliance who would be United States, Canada, and Mexico, and Latin American country. That would be a great alliance. You would have Russia, most probably, with Iran, with the what they call the belt, energy belt, north-south, and you would have China, 3 to 4 big poles, and they're trying to put their chess piece to make sure that they can sustain what is coming. You mentioned the data center. They consume huge amount of energy. And like I said, you invited me on a podcast. For what purpose? Control. Data center are there for control. They're not there for nothing else. Like I mentioned, in the Donbass or in Ukraine, you have webs of drone now everywhere. They need data. And it is the next step toward how our life will change. Drastically. AI, data center, and that needs a lot of energy. We can think about surveillance with Palantir in Israel. So they're building something. We see some aspect of it. We see some part of it. But it's hard to understand the main goal. The globalists, for example, if I use this expression, you can use any type of expression, but they're not, first of all, they're not elected, and they don't care about us. They just don't care about us. We are, well, ants. And we have to at least understand where we stand, and maybe try to connect with each other.
So where do you think the Trump administration might just attack, if I could use such a term? Just who do you think would be next? I mean, Mexico is just a little country in between Venezuela and the United States, so why not just nip that off too, right quick? I don't know.
Well, they have what I think it is close to, if I'm not wrong, 750 base in NATO in Europe. They will just bring them back, and they will reorganize their strategy. I don't think the CIA or those the intelligence services, I don't think they're that intelligent. They just play. No, when you see how they behave, they sometimes, alliance, they negotiate something, and the next day they will betray you because they have a better contract. That's how it works. Global politics, they don't care about the consequences. It's only self-interest, and they follow their self-interest. Of course, some people will say, I protect my people. Trump is always saying, I protect America first. But in reality, did the life of American people improve in the last year? It's 1 year that is in power. Did people really see an improvement in their life? This we have to ask an American.
Payman, you're in Florida, is that right? Do you have like a little cottage down there, or what are you doing on vacation? Do you live down there? You don't, I mean, I have another question, but
Yeah,
How long-
I basically liquidated everything I owned in Canada because I had zero faith in that country, and I bought a farm down here, and this is my revenue stream, and I'm not ashamed of that. You do not want to own land in Canada because then the government owns you.
wow. Okay, I did not expect that answer. Interesting. I thought maybe you still lived in BC. You're joking, right? Because you're living in
No, no,
BC.
no,
literally-
I still live in BC, but I joke that I'm living in my mom's basement. I'm living out of the family cabin. But the house I had and the apartment I also owned and rented out, I got tired of getting phone call. I'm in the middle of a business meeting. Fucking CRA calls me and they said, you haven't paid your empty homes tax. I'm like, what are you talking about? I paid both of them. They're like, no. There's a third one that's federal. And I was like, oh, fuck off, man. Like, there's somebody living in there. Leave me the fuck alone. Sorry, I get
You can swear.
angry.
You can swear. CRA. Hey, speaking of CRA, I brought you just this headline because I wonder if you guys could make heads or tails out of this. CRA says it's owed $10 billion in COVID-related benefits sent to ineligible recipients. Is this from when they paid everyone to stay home during the lockdown? Is this what they're talking about here?
Well, maybe, but I feel like they're getting ahead of the disclosure that's happening with the NGOs and all the fraud in the states. I mean, I'm excited at this time. I mean, you can't put this stuff back in the bottle. I mean, things are getting uncovered that finally we've been talking about for years and years and years and years. All the NGOs, all this stuff. So I feel like they're trying to get ahead of a little bit of this, but that's just my own conspiratorial reaction to this stuff. But yeah, I mean, they just sent it out willy-nilly to all kinds of people, and now they're questioning if that was the right thing to do. I don't know. It's weird.
Sorry to jump in, but
I know.
Graham said they're trying to get ahead of this. You asked who's going to be next. I think it's going to be Canada. Trump's turning his attention to. Carney just put out a post essentially condoning the invasion of Venezuela. He said earlier this year we put sanctions on Venezuela as well. I think he's shaking in his boots.
So we could see this happen in Ottawa.
But don't you think, Payman, that maybe he was brought in to liquidate Canada? I mean, that I know that's a little conspiratorial, but sometimes I'm thinking like maybe, I mean, him and Trump, they know each other. They're friends. I mean, I know they're on different aspects. So this is what I can't reconcile myself is that Carney really does seem to be from the globalists, the net zero thing. Trump really does seem to be kind of the faction, leading the faction that's against that. But sometimes I feel like Carney is here to liquidate Canada and create this North American Union.
I would say he's here to do two things. One, they parachuted him in to slow down Trump as he reindustrializes the U.S. and consolidates. And second, they're like, just whatever you can get it out and give it to the EU. That's my opinion.
All right, Graham, you're right. And, think about Carney. Carney was the governor of the Central Bank of Canada. Then he was the governor of the Central Bank of England. And even if I don't like Liz Truss at all, she was prime minister and she's like a lunatic woman. She warned people. She said, "Watch out, Canadian. Look what he did in the UK. You will suffer the same karma in Canada." And I he's just reacting to events. They don't have the slightest clue, internationally speaking, or if they do, they hide it very well, and they cannot undermine the fact that there's a very big shift in the geopolitical system. If the UN collapses, for example, or defunded, like the World Health Organization or Gavi or all those international institutions, if they are defunded, they just collapse. They just collapse, and then you have no international place to have debate and discussion. It becomes bilateral. And people, they start to make alliance. They have bilateral discussion, bilateral agreement, and the Security Council does not work. So I think Carney is like, 41 million people in Canada. It's like what shit of a fly. We don't even we're not even close to be part of the Great Alliance. We will be vassal, but Canada was always a country of resources. We develop our secondary industry, tertiary industry. We don't do it. We extract and we export. We have a lot of energy here. We would have a lot of potential, but in my opinion, we are still just extractor, explorer, which is extraordinary. We have a lot of energy. So we are, I always say Canada is the attic of the United States. They come and go and get the grain when they need it, whatever you like it or not.
Is Quebec in the, because to me, with Quebec sort of pushing it, it seems like, I mean, maybe I'm just getting misinformation, but it seems like they're pushing for separation again. And so is Alberta. I mean, it feels like Canada's ripe for separation. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, in Quebec, you have what 40% of the population who would support separation, but a peasant without land will separate, and we'll have what? We have nothing. We don't develop natural resources. You cannot compare Quebec with Alberta, because Alberta develops oil and gas, and they have a structure. Here we don't have it. So this is, for me, it is a fantasy in Quebec. And I know there's a lot of Quebecers who want to separate because they want to protect their culture, but damn, drill, exploit or your natural resources, develop your natural resources. This is a big misunderstanding between the English part of Canada and the French part of Canada. It's not only about culture, it's about energy. $14 billion of equalization per year. You think it is funny to receive this money and say, oh, it's because we pay a lot of tax to the federal government. Well, maybe we pay a lot of tax, but we don't develop our natural resources. Where I do agree with you, Payman and David, is that Trump is pushing for those natural resources. He's maybe reorienting the international politics, discarding climate change, and saying, wait a second, we need energy. Whatever it will be for a good purpose or not, data center, I don't know, but he's pushing for energy.
Lithium.
That's maybe a good part.
Here in Nova Scotia, they're removing a lot of red tape for lithium mining. It's a big story.
I'm excited. I'm excited about the energy. This is the thing I like about what's happening down there, is the innovation's going to happen. These AI data centers, I mean, whatever they're going to be used for, it's forcing energy to be produced abundantly and cheaply, like we should have been doing for the last 30, 40 years. So I'm excited about the energy. I don't think it's going to get used up in all those data centers. I think it's going to spill over to help everybody with their energy prices in America. I'm excited. The innovation is going to happen. I mean, even AI, like you can't just sit back, especially the States, they can't just sit back and let the rest of the world start leading the AI race. So.
Well, about energy, you're right. I think Canada will be forced to either unite, either it will be what David was mentioning, the 51st state, maybe Venezuela, maybe the 52nd state would be Canada. I would say more, in your title, David, you use the term totalitarianism or Balkanization. Do you separate provinces and you attach them to United States? I had Michael Jones on my podcast many months ago, and I asked him, I said, do you think Donald Trump wants to annex Canada, including 9 million new Democrat voter? He started to laugh. He said, no, because you have 10 million Canadian who voted for the Liberal, even if the Liberal destroyed this country in the last 10 years. So he was saying, no, we will take the land, but not the people.
Hey,
well, is there a way that Carney and him are going to work out a thing where Canada stays Canada, but really it attaches itself, maybe monetarily or currency wise, or is there some other trick that they've got up their sleeve where it can kind of become North America Union without calling it a state, or it still be seeming like it's Canada and everybody has their elbows up still, but yet really like we're connected and can't be separated anymore, and Trump has more autonomy over keeping China and Russia out of here?
Sounds like you're describing NAFTA.
Well, yeah. you mentioned something very important, the currency. And now in Quebec, we have a provincial government that will lose the election in 2026, and this government will be replaced by the Parti Québécois, which is the separatist party. And they say, okay, if we do the independence, we will have our Quebec dollar. I say, why not the peso or the Rievna? It will be worth nothing. It's backed by what? It's backed by nothing. You have to back your currency by either. If I'm not a fan, and I'm not an advocate of the gold standard, but you have to back it with something: gold, silver, or natural resources, or industrial process. And so Quebec it's a lunatic province. They think that they will be sovereign, and this is the message I say to Albertan people: beware, because even if you vote yes, the process will take years to be implemented or to be accepted. And we are not in a situation right now where we can say, okay, we just vote in a referendum and we just disconnect ourselves from Canada and we will be an independent country, yes, recognized by United Nations, but you will still need, I will say, a big brother or a mentor. It's not very complicated. You have a big mentor who watch yourself. I had a friend who was talking about Costa Rica. Costa Rica doesn't have in its constitution the possibility to have an army. Oh, it's so great. You don't have an army, but you have the United States who are protecting you, and you have bases in Costa Rica. So you cannot just say, I'm a peaceful entity. I will do business as usual, like Alberta, and nobody will come and conquer me or invade me. You need to be able to protect your sovereignty.
It's hard for me to envision a Canada where the DEI narrative it's firmly ingrained in the culture now. Like, as I tell you, like, I have this 9 to 5 thing going on, and it's really, really intense in the environment that I'm in. And this is the milieu of like 50% of the countries works for the federal government, don't they?
That's why I don't think it'll happen, because it's ingrained in Alberta and Saskatchewan too. In the cities, it's ingrained in there.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's already just it's inseparable at this point.
Man, it's like that thing in the Alien movies. Like, it latches onto the United Nations is like has like Canada, but then it's hard to see how culturally we can detether from that stuff without some sort of Trump-like figure who just puts his foot down and says, you know what, men can't be women. You know what? Now it's a law.
My crazy
and
theory
Canadians will go crazy when that happens.
My crazy theory is that kind of what Andre was talking about with the control system being implemented is the only thing that's going to get us, like, because Canada can't, like, we don't have enough people that are aware of what's going on, that are awake enough. Like, they just follow the headlines or whatever the government paid media is telling them today. And the only thing that's going to really get us through, and maybe as the West in general, is their attempt at this control and their failure, because they're not going to really do it properly. Just like the COVID jabs, all this stuff, they're going to fail at the attempt. And that's the only thing that everybody's going to be like, oh boy, we better like get ourselves together and get a new sort of semblance of an idea of freedom and how to live with this technology and how to live in this infrastructure that we're in. I really feel like we have to get through that next phase, and it's going to happen, and we can't do anything to stop it.
Can I follow up on that? I was talking to a CBSA, Canada Border Services Agency whistleblower, and he's describing what went wrong with it after 9/11. They spun up this agency, and instead of being like the military where you're elevated based on merit, for whatever reason, you were elevated based on who you know, the contacts, who you can depend on. And he said it turned into like a bureaucratic department for careerist professionals. So it's job creation. What I'm trying to say is the concept of DEI, it makes us go crazy because we think it's just a racist thing. But beyond being racist, it's nepotism. So nepotism, I know David and I give a job because I know David. But in this case, the nepotism is the government knows somebody and they're giving that person a job because they know him. They know him because of their skin color. But this is just, it's what I call socialism. It's this bureaucratic machine that doesn't really produce anything. What it produces is subpar, but like an avalanche or like a glacier, it just can't be stopped. And it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think Graham is right. I don't think this thing can be stopped until it implodes. And even then, I don't know if what comes out on the other end is not going to just be more government, like nationalization of the food supply housing
Perfect.
and energy.
Yeah, you encapsulated my thought exactly that I had trouble getting at the beginning. The whole purpose of the podcast is like, what the hell's going on in Canada? And I think that we're finally getting to the rotten core of the issue. Hey, check this out. So Danielle Smith was just interviewed like yesterday, and 60 seconds. Check this out.
I want to ask you about separation, and this could change literally from the time we do this to the time that it airs. You've got probably 1 in 3 or 1 in 4, maybe 5 Albertans that says, let's go. We've had it with Ottawa. You've got probably 1 in 3 Albertans that says, never,
Yeah.
not a chance. We love our country. You've got to govern for everybody.
Yeah.
And so you won't be leading charges either way. How do you deal with those discussions?
Well,
Do you hear how he answered that question for her? You won't be leading the charge either way, will you? You know, so she's playing that middle road, I guess, right? Also walking very cautiously. So just a few more seconds.
I am dismayed to see that because of the way we've been treated by Ottawa, the level of sentiment towards independence is as high as I've ever seen it. I've seen numbers ranging from 32% all the way up to 37%. That's a huge number of people
Sure is.
who have given up hope on Canada. I haven't given up hope on Canada, and I think Canada can work. And so signing the MOU was one way that I demonstrated that we can find some area of common ground that has to be implemented, and I have to hold them to account. But it's not the only thing that people are frustrated by. People are frustrated that we run deficits here, and then Ottawa overtaxes us $26 billion and then spends money on equalization in only a handful of provinces, Quebec and Manitoba.
And yet Quebec doesn't have to claim its hydropower.
Completely, and neither does Manitoba. And so people are looking at that saying, you know what, maybe equalization worked for small provinces because it'd be less of a burden on the rest of us. But really, is this country meant so that the small provinces are transferring money to the big provinces so that they can have better social programs than we're able to afford here? Meanwhile, we're running deficits. That's a big problem. So that's one of the things that emerged from Alberta Next that we've got to deal with.
So I'll stop. It's a 9-minute clip, but that's maybe the first 2 minutes. So she says even more. For 9 minutes, she talks about this. And I don't know where people can find that, but it's on the internet. We could look up more later, but man, I'm keeping an eye on this. You know what I'm saying? Boy, oh boy, we got a real dictator out here in Nova Scotia. Tim Horton, Houston.
Tim Horton, Tim Houston. You
Yeah.
said, I just want to react to what Graham was saying. DEI disappeared the same way the COVID crisis disappeared, and the same way Slava Ukraine disappeared. You just change the SIM card of 85% of the population, and they will forget about what they were cheering up the day before. And then when you will remind them that yesterday they will say, well, forget about it. It's over. It's behind us. It's past. 15% of the population is aware. I say 15, maybe 20, maybe 10, but let's say 15% of the population is aware. And I was telling my wife today, how come we're so connected with alternative media? And sometimes I feel that we are in silo, and we talk to each other and we challenge each other. And it's because when you arrive with somebody who just changes SIM card and does not think about what is happening, it gets very boring and very fast. Danielle Smith, and I will just comment on what she just said, she's doing provincial politics. She does not have the intellectual level to understand what is happening globally. So yeah, she has to stick in to her domain and talking about, oh, Canada, I will not be the leader. Give your opinion, madam. You're a citizen of Canada. Give your opinion. You're for or against. Either you're for it and you become the leader, or you're against and you become the leader of the no. I asked in a space this week on Ask, I asked a participant, I said, do you have two group or two association that are forming the group for the yes and the group for the no? In Quebec, we had this in 1995, and people were choosing their camp. It's like you choose your camp. You're with me or against me. She's not, because she's a classical politician. She just slides from one side to another. Whether they're all like that. They're all like that. She doesn't take position.
Yeah, but I
because
don't know.
she's-
I don't know if you can compare 95 in Quebec to Alberta right now. I mean, the sentiment from the rest of the country is way different to Alberta right now. I mean, they hate Alberta. It's a bunch of hicks. It's a bunch of, I mean, the hate is way worse than Quebec. I think there was some sympathy for Quebec back then. And I don't know. I don't think she could, I kind of see why she has to do it like this, to be honest. Because if she went with the separatists, she would be destroyed by the mainstream media. I mean, and I really don't think she could survive it. There's too much.
Well-
The NDP is too close to like, regaining power at some point. And then if she went the other way, then she's going to lose all the support for from the separatists. I don't know.
I do agree with you, but in 1990, and you're right, the context has changed. But in 1995, the then Prime Minister Jacques Parizeau immediately, because it was the Parti Québécois, they initiated the process. There was a party for the separation, and it was a political party. And the ex-minister in the Brian Mulroney cabinet, Lucien Bouchard, who formed the bloc in 1994, was for the sovereignty of Quebec, and they militated for the yes. So you're right, the context has changed. Yet I still see Danielle Smith. She says Canada works. Okay, how much? How's the debt, the provincial debt in Alberta? In Quebec, it is $300 billion, 9 million people, $1.3 billion for $1.3 trillion for all Canadians. Wait, we know it doesn't work. Nobody dispute that, but she stays there because she cannot act internationally. She doesn't have the clue. She's never challenged nothing. Provincial premier, they're always staying in their field, in their domain of expertise, which is most of the time ignorance, and they play against each other instead of saying, okay, I want to make Canada grand. I want to save Canada. Let's work together with all the premier. They're like junior player. They're not part of National Hockey League.
Can I jump in? Andre, I agree more with Graham on this one. What you're describing, back then, Canadians had more agency. Like the Gen X and the millennials hadn't yet been unleashed on society. People still had a brain. And I remember at the time, like Quebec was very passionate about separating, and they were honest. Now, if I look at the electorate, and Graham, I ran for federal office in the April election. I look at the electorate. You mentioned the example, the SIM card. They're zombies. They're brain dead. It's whatever's on the mainstream media. They are always in panic mode. They're in fear. They don't know where their water comes from. They think that without government, you can't have education or healthcare. Roads. That's government kind of thing. And Danielle Smith, always the politician. It's almost like she has a fiduciary responsibility to the UCP to maximize the seats. I mean, I would never work for her. I wouldn't vote for her. I'm a populist. I believe in values and integrity, but I understand what she's doing. She's working with whatever she's got, and what she's got is the Canadian voter.
Well, you're right, and I don't disagree with you. But when I wrote an article a couple of months ago, is there a statement in the room? There's no statement in Canada. It does not exist. They all advocate for their own small, fiefdom. It's provincial feudalism, and even I want to respect those people, but look at how they act.
Yeah.
And I always say the same thing. Do they refer to history? No, never. They never refer to history because they don't know it.
To understand a country, we got to understand the propaganda. When you read a headline like this, what do you think? 51st State comments launched a wave of Canadian patriotism. This was the elbows up thing. Has your life changed since then? They ask. There's only like a month ago they're talking about this.
If you want to know how I feel, go up. There you go. That's how I feel. It's a Globe and Mail. It's all
Globe and
The
Mail,
Globe and
yeah.
Mail.
But it's interesting when I say the 51st State I was thinking like it was a psyop of some kind. Like the media loves it. They won't shut up about it. And they want people to become incensed by like, America wants to take us over. Woo. And a lot of people are believing that. You mentioned Donald Trump's name in my neighborhood. Oh my God, they'll give you a fucking earful. And if you say anything in support of anything that he does at all, well, first of all, don't do it. Because this is a horrifying socialist hellscape here in Canada, isn't it? That's why
Well,
I'm
that's-
frightened. I want to fucking move wherever Payman is. Down in his mom's
Well,
basement.
that's why you live in the forest. That's why I live in a village very far from civilization. That's why payment is in the middle. I don't know, Graham, you're in Saskatchewan. I suppose that you are.
Tiny little town in the middle of nowhere.
There we go.
Maybe that's the best place to be.
I guess so. Oh, well, we'll see what happens.
I grew up in Vancouver and I moved to Calgary, lived there for 11, 12 years. And then I was just moving my way as central and as it's the smallest town as possible, really. And I love it here. It's great.
Hmm.
I had a friend. He's a singer, and he was saying we have to go more up north,
Mm.
as far as possible from the civilization, what we call civilization.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, there's a year ahead. What have you been hearing already? I mean, it's early. The holidays really end tomorrow, don't they? Tomorrow's Monday when everyone's back to school, work, everything. And I'm going back to school tomorrow at Community College, Canada, to look at sustainable development propaganda all over the walls, and tampons in the men's room in my college. So this is what I mean when I get freaked out about Canada. Like, it's literally insane to think that a man can become a woman just by saying it. Okay? This is too far. Donald Trump has had at least the balls to say, no, that's not actually reality. For fuck's sakes. So I respect him for that. And actually, a lot of the lefties who I know also respect him for that. And I know lefties. I guess I know some weird lefties. They have Trump derangement syndrome, but also they don't think the DEI stuff is really good either. Anyway, you got a mixed bag out here on the East Coast. People don't know what the fuck to think anymore about anything, actually. That's Canada. Oh well, we'll see how it goes. Any predictions for the year ahead, guys? I mean, I don't know. More wreckage, I guess. Whatever. What do you think?
I'll go first, and then Andre and Graham, if you want to go. I see 3 battlefields forming. Obviously, Russia, Ukraine, and it's going to expand into Europe. I think Iran and Israel is going to kick off. And I was going to say Venezuela, but it's already kicked off. So we can expand that to be the West. It seems like CIA now, as Andre pointed out, but originally the MI6 was getting ready to carry out terrorism, like literally terrorism, insurgency in Ukraine. I think that we're going to get another Cold War. That's what it feels like. And I don't know if Trump lied to us or if he's just unable to stop this because he can only control his cabinet. But I just see no escape from this.
This is very significant what just happened in Venezuela, man. The Navy, the fucking Air Force, everybody, Navy SEALs are probably doing shit. Hundreds of soldiers marching down the street doing shit. And Trump was saying things that I don't think he was supposed to say. Because whenever he talks about this type of stuff, people moan and groan and look at their shoes and scuff their feet around very awkwardly when he starts to talk about this stuff. Because he said things like, trust me, there was wreckage. They tried to resist for a while, but don't worry, we literally annihilated them. And he talks about this crazy bravado. And the reporters are saying, who's going to run Venezuela? You just took the president. And he was like, yeah, there's some woman there, vice president, but she's with us, no problem. And these guys behind me, this guy, and then Rubio jumps up and he's like, yeah, that's right. They thought that they were big boys on stage, but no, we showed them. And I thought, oh, this is scary. Because you mentioned Caligula earlier, Andre. This is probably how they talked, the fucking Romans, right?
Well, you can't,
Very-
you can't
very
go on
brash.
stage. You can't go on stage and be regretful about it all. I mean, you have
Sure.
you have to double down and say, like, this is how we do things here now. This is the Department of War, not the Department of Defense.
Oh, yeah, sure.
That's very interesting. The Department of War, and you say you have to double down. It reminds me of Dostoevsky, the gambler. You're winning. You just continue to win until you lose everything. Trump will not back down. He will just continue and double up. But economically, is it sustainable? So not in in a climate change ideology, but is it sustainable politically or diplomatically? I predict something in 2026, and I'm not the only one. The end of the EU, the collapse of EU, and it will start with maybe Slovakia, Hungary, Romania. It will start in the east part of EU, and the dismantle of NATO. This is and some geopolitical analysts, they're saying that NATO is the next target. So I think it will happen. I was predicting in 2024, but I was off 2 years.
I like it. I like it. That's awesome. I'm a little bit more optimistic. I don't think Trump's going to continue on. I think he's got what he needs to follow through with that security document. He's going to focus more on, energy and maybe start taking care of things at home. I mean, this might sound like a little bit Q or a little bit conspiratorial, but Maduro might have the goods on really what happened for the last 5-6 years in America and the internal destruction from within. So maybe he'll start taking care of some of that kind of stuff. Hopefully, I don't think Russians wanted to go anywhere either. I think that's all just fear mongering from the EU and the UK trying to keep this world war going. I don't think he was going to go anywhere past Eastern Ukraine, but I don't really, I haven't really paid too much attention to that. But I think what Andre said about this dismantling of these things, even like the WHO and the like Gavi, that kind of thing, because of what Elon has uncovered and what is now happening in Minnesota, it's the tip of the iceberg, and in the Global Affairs Canada, the NGO network, all this stuff, it can't be put back. Like the mainstream just can't keep the lid on it anymore. So I think that you mentioned Gavi is a great example. Like, I don't think people are going to put up with sending money to these places anymore. I mean, Canada's got, 500 million or whatever the amount of money is going to these global organizations. Like, I don't think that's going to fly. There's just too much. And maybe it's all a psyop and Elon, opened up X and it's all for a reason. Maybe it is in the future, but right now it's at least a good place to share information and you can't put the lid on this. So I'm excited about the opening up of all the corruption and we're not just going to be able to stand by and let it just get swept under the rug anymore. So I think it's exciting.
Great. Any election in 2026 or no? What's the plan, do you think? Is that going to happen?
And
Canada?
any coup?
Yeah.
Any coup?
In Canada? I hope
Yeah.
not. I mean, honestly,
Venezuela?
I don't want an election in Canada. I mean, I'm surprised that somebody hasn't walked across the floor already to change the situation.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks for dropping by,
Hey,
fellas.
Graham, they don't have to cross the floor. They're all on the same team.
They're all socialists. They're all socialists.
I know, but at
Jesus.
least if the conservatives were in, they maybe think like our theory is, and Darren says hi and he wishes he could be here. He forgot and had plans, but that's my podcast partner. But we say that like the best they would do is just slow things down a little bit. They're not really going to change anything or we're not going to get clawed and then clawed back, but at least things would slow down a little bit. But I agree. It is one sort of big socialist system here.
Gee whiz. It's hard to roll these things back, it seems. Like when socialism gets past a certain threshold where it infests the cultural, zeitgeist or the general, I don't know, man, like the transgender stuff and all that. It's just like, man, that is some weird stuff. Anyway, it's fine. Talk about that another time. I have no predictions. I don't know. I'm just going to hunker down and keep doing what I do. And I don't know. Talk about politics once with you guys on a somewhat casual, somewhat annual basis, perhaps in the future. So thanks for joining me today and have a great day, guys. And there's going to be some links in the show notes for everybody here has a podcast. Everybody here has some social media, and there's going to be links below to check them out.
Awesome. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, guys. Nice to see you. Nice to meet you.
Man.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, David. Payment.
Have a great night.
Thanks,
Adios.
guys. Nice
Bye-bye.
to meet you. Bye.
Bye-bye.